The night of the concert was perfect, almost suspiciously so. A gentle breeze blew across the open-air arena, and the sunset over Los Angeles painted the sky in strokes of pink and gold. Ariana Grande was radiant on stage, her voice wrapping around thousands of fans like a promise. Every note, every breathless run, every dazzling light effect had been orchestrated to perfection. It was one of those nights people would talk about for years, when everything aligned, when magic felt real. After the encore, Ariana did something she often did for her fans. She came down from the stage for a special meet and greet. No velvet rope. No bodyguards forming walls. Just Ariana, her radiant smile, and a crowd of lucky fans pressing forward with posters, Sharpies, and hopeful eyes. For a while, it was pure joy. She hugged them, signed albums, took selfies, laughed. The energy was overwhelming, a tidal wave of affection. Somewhere in that crush of bodies and flashing phones, it happened. Ariana didn't feel it. She didn't see it. But when she reached to sign the last poster, she noticed her hand felt lighter. She glanced down and froze. Her diamond halo ring, a custom piece designed specifically for the Sweetener tour, was gone. Her heart skipped. She retraced her movements in her mind, signing posters, shaking hands, hugging fans. Panic nibbled at the edges of her thoughts, but she forced a smile and finished the meet and greet, slipping away backstage the moment she could. Her team sprang into action. Security scoured the arena. Staff combed the floor. Stagehands and crew were questioned. But it was chaos, thousands of people, dozens of entrances and exits. Whoever had taken the ring had disappeared into the night, swallowed by the crowd. For 2 days, Ariana said nothing publicly. She didn't want headlines. She didn't want drama overshadowing the concert. But privately, she was devastated. That ring wasn't just jewelry, it was a memory, a symbol of a chapter in her life she wasn't ready to close. She barely slept. Barely ate. Her manager urged her to move on, to let insurance handle it. "It's just a ring," he said. Ariana shook her head. "It's not." Then, on the third day, scrolling through social media at 2 a.m., she saw it. A blurry photo. A caption that made her stomach twist, "Custom diamond halo ring rumored to belong to Ariana Grande for sale. Serious buyers only." The post wasn't blatant. It didn't tag her. It didn't say, "stolen." But Ariana knew that ring the way she knew her own reflection. Every curve. Every sparkle. Every tiny imperfection only she could spot. It was hers. No question. Her hands shook as she screenshotted the post and sent it to her head of security. Within minutes, they confirmed the account was real, a burner profile, just a few days old, with no history except for selling exclusive memorabilia. Ariana had a choice. She could alert authorities immediately and risk scaring the seller into hiding. Or, she could go deeper. She could play the game. She decided to do something reckless. Something personal. She would get her ring back herself. Or at least, she would be there when justice caught up. The moment Ariana decided to reach out, everything shifted. She wasn't the pop star anymore. She was the hunter, not out of vengeance, but instinct. She had grown up in a world where vulnerability was currency, and now, for once, she wasn't going to wait for someone else to fix things. She created a fake profile on a secure resale platform. No name, no real photo, just a tasteful image of a velvet-gloved hand and the username HaloHunter88. It was late at night when she typed her first message to the seller, interested in the ring. "Can we talk price?" It felt surreal, negotiating to buy back her own jewelry. But she kept her tone cool, curious, cautious. The seller responded within an hour. Their account name was generic, forgettable. But their message? Too smooth to be casual. "This is a rare piece. Custom. Verified origin. Won't go for less than $75K. Interested buyers must meet in person. No shipping. Too risky. Ariana read that twice. They knew what they had. And they knew it was stolen or at least didn't want it traced. She played along. $75K is fine. Where are you based? After a pause, the reply came, downtown LA, meet me in a week. Parking garage rooftop. I'll send coordinates. Bring cash. No cameras. Her blood went cold. It was too cinematic, too precise. The kind of setting where movies ended badly. But this wasn't fiction. This was her ring. And whoever had taken it had no idea the person messaging them was the woman they'd stolen it from. She showed the conversation to her head of security. He frowned. You're not going alone. Of course not, she said. But I'm showing up. Over the next few days, a quiet operation unfolded. Her team contacted the LAPD. A special property crime unit was assigned to the case. They didn't laugh. They didn't say she was overreacting. They saw the evidence and treated it seriously. A stolen item. A sale attempt. And now, a meeting with a supposed buyer. It was enough to plan a sting. Ariana requested that everything remain discreet. No sirens. No full police squad. Just her, 2 officers posing as assistants, and a small undercover unit stationed nearby. I want them to see my face, she told them. Only when it's too late. The night before the meeting, she barely slept. She stared at the photo of the ring again and again, zooming in on the details. The tiny engraving on the inside band, always. A word she'd chosen during a season of her life that was filled with uncertainty. The ring had been her anchor. A reminder that even in the chaos of fame, some things were still hers. The next evening, the air was thick with LA heat and low clouds. Ariana dressed simply, black hoodie, sunglasses, no makeup. Her hair pulled back in a way no paparazzi would recognize. The rooftop was nearly empty. The kind of place where people don't loiter. One SUV hers sat parked in the corner. The undercover team had arrived earlier and positioned themselves in cars across the block, radios silent, tension thick. At exactly 8:17 p.m., a second car pulled in. Black Nissan, older model, tinted windows. It stopped halfway across the roof, headlights off. A man stepped out, early 30s, lean build, hoodie up, carrying a small black case. He approached cautiously. "Halo," he called out. Ariana didn't speak. She stepped forward slightly, nodded once. The man opened the case. Inside, nestled in velvet, was the ring. Her ring. Her breath caught, but she kept her face neutral. "Cash?" he asked. Ariana turned slightly, as if reaching into her bag. That was the signal. In the next moment, the rooftop erupted. 2 officers emerged from behind her SUV, weapons drawn. 3 more came from the stairwell. LAPD. Step back. Hands where we can see them. The man froze, panic flashing across his face. "What the I? It's not mine." "I found it," he shouted, raising his hands. Ariana stepped back, heart pounding, the adrenaline finally catching up. She watched as they cuffed him, read him his rights, and secured the case. He didn't resist. He didn't run. But the look on his face when he finally glanced at her, that was something else. He blinked, as if seeing her for the first time. "Wait, that's your," but she didn't let him finish. She just said, quietly, "Yes. And that's my ring." An officer handed the case to her gently. She opened it, picked up the ring, turned it slowly in her fingers, and checked the inside. The engraving was still there. Always. She slipped it onto her finger and whispered, "Welcome home." The man was placed in the back of a cruiser. Officers collected statements. The whole operation had lasted less than 5 minutes. The headlines came the next morning, but Ariana didn't make a public statement. She didn't need to. The only post she shared was a simple Instagram story, a close-up of the ring on her finger, and a single caption, "Some things aren't replaceable." Fans immediately understood. Comments poured in. Messages of support, of relief. And somewhere, deep in a precinct-holding cell, a man sat with his head in his hands, still trying to figure out how the buyer he thought he'd fooled turned out to be the very person he'd stolen from. The man who stole Ariana Grande's ring was formally charged within 48 hours. His name wasn't released immediately, but that didn't stop the internet from figuring it out. Fans across platforms pieced together old photos, parking garage camera footage, and blurry screenshots until they found him, 34 years old, known for flipping celebrity memorabilia online, previously banned from 2 fan events. He wasn't a professional thief. He was just bold enough to think he'd never get caught, but he had underestimated 2 things: how deeply Ariana cared about that ring, and how far she was willing to go to reclaim what was hers. The case moved quickly. Grand theft. Attempted sale of stolen property. Online fraud. Surveillance footage confirmed he had slipped the ring from Ariana's finger during the meet and greet, using the chaos of the crowd and a practiced sleight of hand. What he hadn't expected was that the ring had a microscopic serial number engraved into the setting, one that matched Ariana's original custom jeweler records exactly. He pleaded not guilty at first. Claimed he found the ring on the ground after the concert and didn't know whose it was. But the online listing, the burner account, the messages, it all pointed in one direction. His public defender tried to argue he never intended to harm anyone. It was a mistake, he said. A moment of weakness. Ariana didn't attend the early hearings. She didn't want the media to turn it into a spectacle. But when the final day of testimony arrived, the day the court would hear from the victim, she appeared. No press. No cameras in the courtroom. Just Ariana, seated quietly at the back until the clerk called her name. She walked to the stand in a soft gray blazer and simple earrings. No security entourage. Just a folded note in her hand and the ring on her finger gleaming like it had never been lost. The prosecutor asked her one question: why was it important to get the ring back personally? She looked up and answered slowly, because it wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was something I earned. It was part of my journey. Someone tried to take that away from me like it didn't matter. But it does matter. And not just to me, to anyone who's ever had something precious stolen, whether it's a memory or a moment or a thing. I wasn't going to let it go. The courtroom stayed silent. She didn't cry. She didn't break down. She just spoke the truth, calm, honest, unshaken. The defense didn't cross-examine her. An hour later, the verdict came in, guilty on all counts. The man was sentenced to 1 year in county jail, plus restitution and a 5-year ban from attending any public celebrity event in California. The sentence wasn't harsh, but it was enough. Enough to send a message that you can't rob someone's story and walk away like it didn't happen. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited for Ariana. She stopped just once, not for a press conference, but for a single microphone. There's a difference between being famous and being real, she said. Sometimes the realest thing you can do is stand up for something quietly, and not let fear keep you small. She smiled, waved politely, and left. Later that night, she went live for the first time in weeks. Not for an announcement, not for an album drop, just to thank fans. You all have been incredible. Thank you for your support. Thank you for caring about more than just music. Thank you for caring about people. About me. I got my ring back, but more than that, I got to keep the part of me that refused to give up. I love you endlessly. The live had over 12 million views in under 24 hours, but the ring itself? It never appeared in another post. Ariana wore it now and then, but only when she wanted to. It wasn't about showing it off. It was about knowing it was there, not because it glittered, but because she had fought for it. And sometimes, the smallest sparkles carry the greatest stories. The concert world kept turning. Tours were booked. Albums released. Paparazzi returned. But for those who remembered that night, that ring, and the silent smile Ariana wore when she reclaimed it they knew something real had happened, because in an industry that often forgets what things truly mean, she remembered, and that made all the difference. The courtroom had gone quiet, the gavel had dropped, and justice, at least formally, had been served. But in the days that followed, it became clear the story wasn't over, not for Ariana, not for the man who stole from her, and not for the millions who had watched it unfold like a real-life mystery. The news spread far beyond entertainment headlines. Morning talk shows, legal analysts, even cultural commentators weighed in. Ariana Grande turns the tables, one wrote. Pop star outwits thief with quiet class. It wasn't just about a ring anymore. It had become a story about reclaiming control, about handling betrayal with grace and determination. Public opinion was unanimous, Ariana had done it right, but what surprised everyone was what happened next. Just 2 weeks after the trial ended, Ariana's team received a letter. Handwritten, delivered through her lawyer. It was from the thief that it began simply, I don't expect forgiveness. But I need to say this. In the pages that followed, he didn't offer excuses. He didn't beg. Instead, he wrote about shame. About how watching Ariana speak in court had made him realize what he had actually stolen, not just an object, but a moment of safety, of trust. Asterisk, you weren't showing off when you wore that ring, he wrote. You were carrying something personal. And I took it like it was just another thing to sell. That's on me. And I'll carry it now. Ariana read the letter alone in her dressing room during rehearsals for an upcoming performance. She didn't cry. But she sat with it for a long time. Then, she folded it carefully and put it away, without saying a word to anyone. That same week, she returned to the stage, her first concert since the trial. The venue was packed, the crowd louder than ever, and when she reached the moment in the set where she usually went down to greet fans, there was a collective breath hold. Would she do it again? She did, but this time, security stood just a step closer. Her team had added new safety measures, subtle but strong. And still, Ariana reached out, smiled, signed hats and posters, and let the fans feel close again. As if nothing had ever changed except that now, she knew how quickly it could. That performance was streamed worldwide. Clips of her interaction with fans went viral. One, in particular, showed her kneeling beside a young girl and whispering something no mic picked up. A lip reader on TikTok translated it later, no one gets to take your joy. You hold on to it. Okay. It hit millions right in the heart, but while Ariana rose even higher, the man who had tried to profit from her pain sat in the shadows of consequence. After his sentencing, he was moved to a correctional facility just outside Los Angeles. No interviews. No statements. But something unexpected surfaced that a few weeks into his sentence, he joined a rehabilitation program focused on victim impact awareness. According to one counselor, he volunteered to speak about his case, not to justify, but to explain how easy it is to dehumanize someone when all you see is the fame. Asterisk, I thought I was stealing from a brand, he reportedly said. Turns out, I was stealing from a person. The quote made its way to a small article in a local paper. It didn't trend. It didn't go viral. But Ariana's assistant quietly printed a copy and placed it in her mail pile. She read it, nodded once, then moved on. Not because she didn't care, but because she had already chosen to let the story end. Or rather, to let it transform. A few months later, during a backstage interview, Ariana was asked one last time about the ring. The interviewer expected a soundbite. Instead, she gave them this: I didn't chase the ring because of what it cost. I chased it because of what it meant. There's a version of me that would have let it go, told myself it wasn't worth the trouble. But I've grown past that. We're allowed to protect the things we love, even when it feels inconvenient. Especially then. And then, almost as an afterthought, she added, and sometimes, when you stand up for yourself, you're really standing up for the version of you who used to be too scared to. The quote made the rounds again in fan pages, in mental health blogs, even in motivational books. But Ariana never referenced the story again. Not publicly, she didn't need to, because something had shifted not just in how people saw her, but in how she moved through the world. With the quiet confidence of someone who knew what it meant to lose something valuable and what it meant to fight to get it back, that a year later, no one was talking about the ring anymore, not because they forgot but because the story had become something else entirely. That it had inspired quiet changes. Concert security protocols were updated across multiple venues, with new guidelines for celebrity access zones. Fan meet and greets became more thoughtful, more human, less about frenzy and more about connection. And somewhere in downtown LA, a non-profit launched a small program called Moments Matter, helping artists recover stolen personal items and preserve the emotional value behind them. The founder listed herself anonymously. But the logo? A tiny halo ring. Ariana never confirmed she had anything to do with it. But she didn't need to. Her fans knew. And she knew that they knew, and that was enough. She wore the ring occasionally now. Not at every show. Not on red carpets. But on quiet days during writing sessions, coffee runs, or when visiting the studio where she'd recorded her first album. It wasn't a symbol of glamour anymore. It was a reminder of resilience. Of what it meant to take something back and carry it forward. When asked once in an interview what the most valuable thing she owned was, she didn't mention the ring at all. She smiled softly and said, "My boundaries." And that answer said everything, because in a world where things are stolen, shared, sold, and speculated, some things stay yours. The sparkle, in the end, wasn't the diamond that it was her.